simply to win or to try to win beautifully? Football's eternal debate. One never more relevant than when Brazil lit up the 1982 World Cup in Spain. A team in yellow danced to a different beat and set new aesthetic standards. They played with artistry, irreverence, joy, and no little skill. And whilst the history books confirm that Brazil lost, those men in yellow will be forever remembered as the team that enthralled an entire generation.
That team was football in its purest form.
The world went crazy for that team. There was this romantic atmosphere around them.
This stirred something in people who love the beautiful game.
Sarriá, the unassuming Barcelona neighborhood, where on the 5th of July 1982, many felt the beautiful game died, where Brazil's finest team in the post-Pelé era succumbed to eventual champions Italy, where pragmatism overcame fantasy. The world wept for Brazil's fallen heroes and the end of a style that had dominated world football for a quarter of a century.
We all look back on that game with great sadness. It didn't just change Brazilian football, it changed world football. All the Spanish newspapers said the World Cup was over when we were knocked out.
I'll never forget a headline in the Spanish press. It's impossible to understand the world. Brazil knocked out. Because we were all in love with that team. It was the crystallization of the so-called beautiful game.
Alongside Hungary in 1954 and Holland 20 years later, Brazil's 1982 outfit became the finest team never to win a World Cup.
To win or lose suddenly became second place. It was more what they meant to the imagination of world football, just like Hungary in '54 and Holland in '74.
I think those three teams are remembered by fans even though they lost. Ultimately, because of the football that they played.
We didn't win. We didn't even reach the semi-final. And it's not just in Brazil. The whole world still remembers our team from '82. And that makes us so happy.
Since 1964, Brazilians had been governed by their army in a one-party dictatorship. But by the early 1980s, theirs was a country in transition.
Don't forget that in '82, you could vote for state governors again in Brazil. Campaigns to have general elections again were ever present. You had Corinthian democracy in football. I think that at that moment, you had the appropriate melting pot in society and culture, so that football represented this new age that Brazil was living in. It was a new moment of hope in Brazil. Hope that had been suffocated by the military dictatorship ever since 1964.
Brazilians needed something to celebrate. In 1970, they'd won their third World Cup in just 12 years, but they'd failed to live up to expectations in the ensuing years in terms of both victories and style. More than ever, Brazil sought a return to their artistic roots, and they'd just the man to guide them there.
The philosophy of that team and our coach, Tele Santana, was to get onto the pitch and play football.
When he called up his first squad and we all got together, we knew pretty much straight away that he was the team that could win the World Cup.
He was far more concerned with how his team played than the game itself. The result was then a consequence of what the players did on the pitch.
He didn't let anyone foul or go in hard on the opposition. If a player was constantly fouling, then he would immediately sub that player, even if it was to the detriment of the team. He didn't allow any violence on the pitch at all.
Tele was one of the greatest Brazilian coaches of all time. He was a coach who prioritised technique, touch, and the beautiful game.
I'll never forget him saying to us when we got together, "You're all here because you're the best players in the country. So get to know each other on the pitch." It's amazing for a coach to say that to you as a player. Get to know each other on the pitch. So we got to know each other on the pitch.
The Tele Santana era began with a 2-0 win over Mexico on the 8th of June 1980. The next 18 months saw some of the most sustained success by a Brazilian team in history.
I think that team was built gradually over time. The project started in 1979 and carried on until 1982, so it took the best part of 4 years' hard work to arrive at that final formation.
His teams played as if to music. We all knew each other. We all knew where everyone would be on the pitch. What he wanted was for us to play with creativity, to play for fun, and to play in a way that will get results, but in a clean, disciplined, and correct way, respecting the laws of the game.
And the results came easily enough, as did the style and swagger.
We flew through the qualifiers. We had exceptional players. Zico, Socrates, Falcao, Oscar, Junior, Eda, me. So that was a team that could give a lot of joy to fans. So we kept getting better. And we knew that we could do well in '82.
I think that's why everyone was so in awe of us, because as well as our obvious technical ability, we never did anything to change the style of our football or our characteristics, even when we went behind in games. We never tried to win ugly.
When people who like football watched us for the very first time on our European tour in 1981, where we played against Germany, England and France and beat all three of them on their own turf, well, even our opponents recognized the fact that this was a very good team.
But while nobody doubted the team's ability as a group, this was a side that boasted a collection of some of the finest individual talents in the history of the game.
It was the last great generation we had, full of world-class players in Brazilian football.
That team contained the biggest star from the most popular team in Rio Grande do Sul, Falcao, the biggest star from the most popular team in Sao Paulo, Socrates, the biggest star from the most popular team in Rio de Janeiro, Zico, the biggest star from the most popular team in Minas Gerais, Cereza. So, this already made this Brazilian team loved throughout the country.
It was those four stellar names in midfield who combined to form the heartbeat of Santana's side.
It was a fabulous team. We only had good players. A midfield of Cerezo, Socrates, Zico and Falcao. Incredible.
I don't think there's ever been another number 10 as good as Zico since. It was just incredible to witness his ability and his vision of the whole game.
I always prepared myself as best I could. I knew what my responsibilities were, and then I tried to play my best for the team, use all my individual qualities for the benefit of the group.
But that national team was all about Socrates. As far as I'm concerned, Socrates was the face of that team. It was the doctor's team.
Socrates was never a great athlete, but in that World Cup, he changed completely. He stopped smoking, he trained well, he made all of us train harder. He behaved as a captain should behave.
The only time that Socrates ever played for 90 minutes in every game was in that World Cup.
In attack, Santana deployed Eder on the left and Serginho on his own up front. A muscular target man often criticised for his lack of finesse, but nonetheless the leading scorer in the Brazilian championship. Brazil's defence was regarded as a possible point of weakness, but perhaps only because of its attacking tendencies.
The defence was actually really good. How could a defence with Leandro, Oscar, Luizinho and Junior be bad? And in front of them, they had Falcao and Cereza. It was a great defence.
The team was so good that everybody wanted to attack. And so it was always me and Oscar shouting at everyone to get back and defend, as our fullbacks, Leandro and Junior, had so much ability, they were like attacking players.
With the team in place, Brazil travelled to Spain for the World Cup finals. In 18 months, they'd won 22 games, drawn 6 and lost just 2. The question was, could they deliver when it mattered most? Brazil arrived in Spain as the overwhelming favourites, a nation not only confident but expectant of victory.
When they arrived in Spain, they already had an aura about them as this team that played fantasy football.
The atmosphere was great. It was really good. We were as good as could be expected. We were pretty calm and confident because of the games we'd already played together before going to the World Cup.
The first test came against the Soviet Union.
The first game is always difficult. I didn't sleep the night before.
That's the tension you get at a World Cup. People are desperate to do well, and we struggled in the first half.
Valdir Perez let in a goal from nowhere, which meant that we had to go for it even more. And we turned the game around.
The captain, Socrates, equalised with a quarter of an hour remaining.
I never saw so much ability with such small feet and such a lanky body. He looked like a giant, and Socrates was a giant in every sense.
In the dying minutes, Eder secured victory. Brazil were on their way.
Paulo Isidoro began the move and passed to Falcao. I screamed for him to let it go. He dummied it. It was a great move, and one that showed how well we knew each other, which makes things easier. But that was my main strength. Hit it hard and hit it true.
I think the way in which we came back gave us a lot of confidence. We knew that we could take any team on, playing our game.
Next up was Scotland.
The game against Scotland was a little more tense, but once again we showed that we could come back because we went a goal down, despite playing better than them.
We didn't panic. Obviously, we had to go for it a bit more, and so we played a more open game. But then, that was a characteristic of all Tele's teams.
We didn't change anything as we knew that the game would turn in our favour at some stage. Once we equalised, we saw Scottish heads go down. Or at least they let their guard down, because from that point on, there was no chance of losing the game.
We had that self-confidence that we could always do it.
That 4-1 win against Scotland was followed by 4 more goals against tournament minnows New Zealand.
I think we gained confidence as we went on in that World Cup because we were playing well. Various moves we'd worked on were coming off, and naturally, that makes you think you can reach the final.
Socrates, Zico, Falcao and Eder dancing on the pitch. It was entertainment, it was fun, and that's what football is about. I think it's the greatest thing that football can do.
And then we were drawn in a group with Italy and Argentina in the second round. So it was the group of death.
It was the old enemy first for Brazil, reigning world champions, Argentina.
We were up against another South American team. We knew each other very well. It was an incredibly important game. Decisive, if we wanted to go through.
I think that's when we reached our peak, but again our motivation was slightly different. We were playing against our arch rivals. Argentina were the World Cup holders, and we were playing against a team that even we loved to watch. To a certain extent, it was a very even game, but I think we were calmer than them and had the patience and know-how to get the result we needed.
Whilst it was never easy, as the game went on, we were able to make it look easy because we really took the game to them and we played so well.
It was a great game. We showed all our qualities, and I think that's why we became even more confident that we'd become champions.
A 3-1 win meant only Italy lay between Brazil and a place in the semi-finals. The Italians had failed to set the tournament alight, only just qualifying after 3 uninspiring draws.
I remember being back at the hotel watching Italy on the TV and realising that they weren't playing that well in the World Cup. They didn't start well at all. And I then remember some of us chatting and saying, you know what, we could get Italy. And ironically, as it turns out, we got Italy in the next round.
Italy had got through to the second round with 3 draws, but we were playing well, beating everyone.
We came into that game having virtually qualified. A draw would have been enough to see us through to the semi-finals.
It wasn't necessary to say anything before the game. We knew that a draw was enough. We'd said that before. Come on, let's do it. But some people want to put on a show.
Brazil attacked from the outset. Holes were left in defence, and Juventus striker Paulo Rossi gleefully accepted a chance after just 5 minutes.
There are certain moments that you have to play for the result if you want to win. It's not a long competition where everyone plays against everyone else. So, if you reach the knockout stage and don't play well in one game, then you'll be on the first flight home, no matter how well you played in your previous games.
A glaring miss from Serginho compounded early Brazilian fears.
He had a lot of chances, and he didn't always take them, and naturally people take notice.
Brazil did soon equalise, however, a moment of genius from Zico, setting up captain Socrates. But the joy was short-lived. Paulo Rossi again in the right place at the right time, following an uncharacteristic error from Cerezo.
He made a mistake trying a pass, but that was all. It happened and we tried to rectify it. But we all make mistakes.
Brazil's persistence was rewarded with Falcao's equaliser 20 minutes from time. At 2-2, Santana's men were going through.
That was the moment that we should have shut up shop and said, let's get players behind the ball and everyone defending. And I'm sure that Italy wouldn't have scored against us. We lacked intelligence. That's the best word.
I remember in that game, Oscar and I shouting at the fullbacks to stay back when it was 2-2. And they wanted to win the game. Our coach, Tele, wanted to win the game. To be honest, I don't think we played with enough humility. We all lacked humility, from the management to the players, as we had 2 chances to hold on to the draw, and we went for the win instead.
Vai bater de perna esquerda, correu. Atenção, balanço, pino desceu, saltou na cabeçada, toca, essa bola espirrou. Atenção, é folga, é gol! Outra vez, Paulo Rossi!
Destined to be the villain, Paulo Rossi completed his hat-trick only minutes after Brazil had equalised.
We kept our philosophy, but I obviously wanted to win. We played to win that World Cup, but within the laws of the game. We wanted to win, but maintaining our philosophy. I think maybe that group of players didn't know how to play football any other way. If you told us to play differently, to shut up shop or to play on the counter-attack, then you'd have had to have changed the players.
Unfortunately, when it was time to play a little ugly against Italy, we couldn't do it.
The equaliser simply wouldn't come. For Brazil, their World Cup was over.
On the day Italy played against us, everything went right for them. Sometimes you just can't fight against that. I think if we'd played for another 5 hours, then Italy would still have won.
No one wins a game by being better on paper. You have to show it on the pitch. And on that day, Italy were better.
We cried a lot in Serie, because it's not a good memory at all. After the match, we had a meeting and no one could talk, because there wasn't really anything to say. We lost, and we tried to find an explanation, but there wasn't one.
Despite their loss, Brazil returned home as heroes. Most people shared Santana's vision.
I remember after the game against Italy, Tele went to the press conference, where he had to face over 300 journalists. They all gave him a standing ovation.
The fact that that team didn't win the World Cup cost Brazilian football dear. We replaced our preference for artistic football and aesthetic beauty with a win-at-all-costs attitude. Tournament football. Results-driven football.
Nothing else mattered after that, just victories. And that was bad for Brazilian football, because people stopped concerning themselves with beautiful football. And that had always been something we'd been proud of in Brazil.
If Brazil had won, then I think other national teams would have copied us and our style. But that didn't happen. Whoever wins is doing it right. And as Italy won, everyone wanted to copy Italy.
The players themselves were split as to whether the means justified the ends, whether the most talented generation Brazil had ever seen, or simply a team of individuals unable to win when it mattered, a team synonymous with losing.
I still prefer to play with the same philosophy that we always had in Brazil years ago. That died in the 90s, unfortunately. They won titles, but they also destroyed our beautiful game.
Yes, we were one of the best teams. We were, but we were a losing generation. We won nothing. We had some great players who deserved to have a World Cup winners' medal, guys like Falcao, Zico, Socrates. They deserved it. We all deserved it. But we didn't win. So we're remembered for that game, that defeat. It's been 30 years, and we're remembered for that, and it'll go on for another 60, 70 years. You played well, but you didn't win. What does that even mean? We didn't win.
Brazil 1982. They may not have won, but they caught the essence of the game. They captured the artistry and the joy. Those men in yellow who danced to their own beat.
I wanted to win it, just as everybody else did. But I think there's some consolation that we are still so well known. I think every player who played for Brazil in 1982 is very proud that they were part of that team.
We liked to play that way. The fans were in awe of our football, and there's no doubt that we played some incredible stuff. And it's not just because I was part of it, but people will never stop talking about that team.